Memory lane talk. All right. It's the big one. Jumping into topic 3. Let's talk about Elden Ring. TJ, what do you want to talk about? Where do you want to start with Elden Ring?
Oh God. Well, much like Elden Ring itself, I have no idea where to start
All
because
right.
there's
So
there's a lot.
let's start with the big one. How much time have you put in Elden Ring?
That is a good question, actually. Let me pull up
Sure.
my Steam page. Let's see. Okay, according to Steam, I have put in 593.7 hours.
Wow. Okay. Dang.
Honestly, lower than I thought.
Okay. So, with Elden Ring, what's your experience with the other Soulsborne type games? Like, have you played Dark Souls? Have you played Bloodborne, Sekiro, etc.? Or was this your first delve into it?
So I played Dark Souls 1
Okay.
back when like before Dark Souls 2 had even come out. And I didn't get very far. I got pretty frustrated. And
Sure.
then uh I kept banging my head against the wall and I just like looked up stuff on the internet and cheesed my way through it basically with the
Sure.
pyromancer. Because you can break the first Dark Souls game, you can break pretty easily. So it wasn't like I did it because I had knowledge of the game or anything. I was just like, oh, if I put all the points into this spell, I can auto win.
Mm.
Um, so that was kind of what I did with Dark Souls 1. Didn't play Dark Souls 2 at all. When Bloodborne came out, I played that. I loved Bloodborne. It was really fun, but I gave up on it about halfway. I never finished it.
Okay.
There's kind of that moment in a Souls game where you hit a wall and you either got to get good or completely rechange your tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not willing to do either of those things in Bloodborne. Like I just kind
That's
of gave
fair.
up. That's kind of most games. I feel like you kind of get to that. I'm like, I'm just not willing to spend another 5 hours of like just figuring out what to do, like
Sure.
what weapons or whatever.
Mm.
So Elden Ring was the first one that I actually was able to finish. I hit that wall. I stuck with it.
Okay.
Um, and now I've gone back through and I played Dark Souls 3 within the last 3 months. That's a fantastic game. I beat that. I'm playing through Dark Souls 2 right now, which is a bit more janky. They didn't smooth things out very well, like with the power stancing and stuff, but still pretty fun. I still intend to beat it with my dual wielding sword stuff, so I can say I've beaten every Souls game with a two-handing sword, like two one-handed swords.
Okay. Nice. So what was it with Elden Ring that kind of caught your attention a little bit more or interest more than the others?
I think one is the combat. Like it is so fluid and smooth in Elden Ring. Like the animations and everything, like even with a bunch of craziness going on, everything, the particle effects, everything, it's always, I don't know, I always feel like it just works really well. Like it's very crunchy. And so it's very satisfying combat combined with the fact that it was so open
Mm-hmm.
because how far did you get in Elden Ring when you played it?
So the point
Did you go to Stormvale Castle?
so I don't know names. So there was two bosses I was dealing with. There was this lion thing on the coast after one castle ruin area by the
Okay.
beach. So there
Castle
was that.
Castle Morn.
Okay. And then the big boss, which I've been told is the first big one. The like older gentleman, I don't know if it's Godfried, something like that. He like jumps really high in the air a bunch and
Does he have,
does
does he have a cane and he's got like golden knives he throws at you?
probably, maybe I'll look it up. But I
Because
remember
in that,
you
oh, sorry,
fight
go
him
ahead.
like on a castle wall. Um
Yes.
okay, yeah, he's got some like
How many?
astral hammer or some shit.
Okay. He only had two arms though, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good.
um
That's
so yeah, I
I'm
fought.
blanking on his name right now.
Is it Godfrey?
No, it is Morgot. It's not a.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Well,
So
I got to him. I got him down to like halfway a few times, and then yeah, I was like, all right.
so he is not actually the first boss.
He's not. Is it the stupid
I,
horse thing? I avoid the fuck out of the horse.
no. These are all mini bosses. You do have to fight Morgott to get to the first main. When I say main boss, I mean a great rune holder,
Oh,
a
Jesus.
a holder of the great shard.
Okay.
You like a main boss.
Okay.
That's at the end of that castle. So when you fought Margit, that's like going into Stormvale Castle, and then you get all the way to the end of Stormvale Castle, and then you got to fight the Grafted. I can't think of his name because all the G's and stuff, but
Okay.
yeah, that guy's got like 15 arms, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah. He looks familiar, but the area these pictures are in doesn't look familiar, so I'm confused, but the name sounds right.
I'm gonna get the names wrong because here's the thing about Elden Ring. A lot of people know that it was written by George R. R. Martin.
Yep.
The universe for it. What they don't know is that all of the important characters and gods and goddesses, their names either start with a G, an R, or an M.
Right.
George R. R. Martin.
Yeah.
And so because there's only 3 letters, and there's like 9 characters, there's like Ronnie, Renalia. It's like okay, dude. It's like Melania, fucking
Yep.
Margit. Fuck.
But, yeah, it must have been this guy. But yeah, he was the first big one I got to, and then there was that lion boss that I also got stuck on.
Yeah, Castle Morgan. That's just like an optional fun little side area
for sure.
you can do. I say fun, as meanwhile you're like, I'm getting stabbed. So when I played it for the first time, I went straight to the castle like a genius.
Okay.
'Cause I was like, I've played Dark Souls, and I fought Morgott, one of those two.
Mm-hmm.
Which is sad. He's my favorite character, so it's sad that I don't know his name, but he destroyed me. He threw the golden light hammer at me.
Yep.
And so I was like, fuck this. I went back out. There's actually, the road forks off. There's like you can go right or you can go straight to the castle. So I went to the right, and I found a pathway that actually led me around the back of the castle. So you can actually skip the castle sequence entirely and just go to the next area.
Oh, okay.
So I went to the next area, which is you're not supposed to do supposed to, but like the normal sequence of events would have you not doing that. And I was like, this is really cool. The enemies were a little bit too tough for me, obviously, but I was able to like grind there and then come back. So I think that's kind of why I decided to stick with it, because I'm like, this game feels like it was made to be sequence broken and not cheese, but like played towards your advantage. Like if you get stuck on a boss like that, just like go fight a different boss or go get a different weapon.
Yeah, which I'll definitely agree. That was a bigger appeal with this in compared to other ones. Like obviously my experience is much more limited than yours. Like I played a little bit of Bloodborne. Sekiro was probably the farthest I made it. And then I did play a little bit of the remastered Dark Souls 1 just because it came with my PS5 when I got it. But I did enjoy that in Elden Ring where it's open enough, well, the open world, where, yeah, like you said, if you're getting stuck, go somewhere else, explore, figure it out. Like the other games, at least in comparison, it's very streamlined, or there's not a lot of leeway of like where you can go. So I definitely appreciated that in this one when I was playing it.
Well, that, and like, even if Elden Ring was as closed off and like linear as like Dark Souls 1, 2, or 3, I still feel like it's twice as open just in its combat system.
Okay.
Like, especially now that I'm going back to play Dark Souls 2 right now, like, oh my god, the hurdles you have to jump over just to make basic shit works that automatically works in Dark Souls, in Elden Ring. Like in Elden Ring, if you have a katana in one hand and you equip a katana in your other hand, congratulations. L1 now does dual wielding katana attacks specifically. You can still attack with the swords independently, but if you press L1 specifically, you'll attack with both weapons.
Okay.
In Dark Souls 2, you have to find a weapon of the same type, so the 2 katanas or whatever. Then you got to check your stats and make sure that you have 150% of the requirements to be able to power stance. Once you make sure you have enough requirements, then you go into the power stance. What you want to do is you want to hold Y. Okay, don't tap Y. If you tap Y, you will two-hand your weapon. You want to hold Y. You will see the sword in your left hand raise slightly. That's how you know you're in power stance mode. Now, when you're in power stance mode, you cannot use both weapon attacks. And also, the amount of stamina it requires to do a power stance attack is like if you were swinging both weapons anyway, whereas in Elden Ring it is like 1.5 times as much stamina instead of 200% times more stamina. So anyway, just small things like that.
Sure.
It's just so much more streamlined. All the way you do your weapons. Oh my god, the weapons of Elden Ring. Like every, every single weapon. How much have you played like Souls games? Like, do you know about like the trying to get your stats to align with weapons and stuff? Or
I've never looked into it that like in depth. It's just been more like I think this is what I'll use or what I like. I've never gone in depth with like stats and stuff like that. It's always like, oh, health, duh. That's what I want because I'm getting punched. So I wouldn't say I've looked into details like that.
okay, in Souls games usually you want to choose one, maybe two if you know what you're doing. Primary stats. So
Okay.
you're like, I'm going to be a dexterity character. I'm going to put the majority of my damage dealing level ups into dexterity, or I'm going to be a strength character or an intelligence, whatever. Um, the problem with that though is obviously weapons, they have a scaling in the game based off of letters like A through D.
Okay.
The higher towards A, like A being the strongest weapon scaling. So if you have 20 dexterity and 10 strength, you want to find a sword that has A or B dexterity scaling and then C or D strength scaling.
Okay.
So it'll rely on that stat less. Um, that locks you out of a lot of weapons, obviously.
Mm.
If you're putting your points into dexterity, you can't use heavy swords and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have enough strength for it. In Elden Ring, not only can you respec, so you can just change your stats if you want to use a different weapon, although that is limited. You can only do it maybe like 15 to 20 times
Okay.
a run, I would say. Um, in Elden Ring, every single weapon you can take to the blacksmith and change it so that those weapon grading scales match your stats. Like
Oh,
you
okay.
can take a hammer, instead of it being like an A scaling for strength and a D scaling for dexterity, you can take and flip that and have it be a D scaling for strength and A for dexterity. Um, it's very cool. That does coincide with the weapon art itself, though, also changing. So like the L2 attack, basically. But yeah, just being able to use any weapon with any character by being able to like swap around the stats like that is just absolutely mind blowing. And that's part of the reason I have almost 600 hours in, is because like I've only used like half the weapons. Like it's
Right.
still, and using a different weapon in a Souls like game is basically a completely different game, because you're
Hmm.
going to change how you're pacing and dodging and defending and how you're attacking. Like, you have to relearn everything. So it's yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Dang. Yeah, that's nice to have that freedom and not just be pigeonholed into a path. Um,
Yeah.
so how did you think the story, or what did you think of the story overall in Elden Ring? Like, did you find it was easy to come by, or it was one of those things you had to kind of look out for, keep an ear to the ground? Like, I know sometimes you kind of have to dig for the lore, it seems, in these types of games.
Oh, you absolutely have to dig for the lore in Elden Ring, but for the first time, I actually gave a shit to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I actually found the item description pages on the weapons and items, which I hadn't done in previous games, and I
Sure.
actually went through and read. And I was like, oh, okay, this sword is for this and stuff. Um, and I don't know, I did enjoy the story more, only because it feels like a whole world this time
Yep.
instead of like a little area in Dark Souls. And so they're like it does have a whole it's not even just like a history of like what just happened to make the lands between be this kind of like decrepit, like almost post-apocalyptic fantasy setting.
Hmm.
It also has like thousands of years of history.
Oh, wow.
Like, if you go back, like the golden tree in the
Yeah.
middle of the okay, that's like the main religion and like the main issue going on in the
Okay.
world. But it's like, in the lore of Elden Ring, like you learn, it's like, oh yeah, before the giant tree was here, before the two fingers and their guidance, there was another, like the world was uh ruled by trolls. There's these giant trolls, and you can actually find there's a land of these giants and trolls, and there's like giant heads, like giant skulls and stuff where they used to lead. And it's like, oh, before they ruled the lands between dragons, there was a dragon lord who had like 6 heads plus Sudisacks, and he shoots lightning out of his face and stuff. He's super sick, and there's a bunch of dragons everywhere, and you can still find like the crumbling dragon empire scattered throughout Elden Ring.
Oh, okay.
you also do get to fight Plasudasax, which is the best boss fight ever.
Okay.
So yeah, so kind of that made it feel more realistic, I think, than other previous games where I'm like, there's like ages and like lots of history in this world that makes it feel more lived in. Because there's also, it's not just that history, but it's like certain groups of enemies. It's like this group, these are called the Godskin Peelers or whatever, the Godskin Nobles. Like this group of people, they used to worship these gods like 10,000 years ago, and also, they do this, and you have like this group over here, and they all have their own history and things that feels, I don't know, it just feels natural. It doesn't feel like it's like forced into the game at all. Like it just kind of feels like it's happening, it's existed, it's always existed. Like I feel like I'm kind of observing, like looking into this fully realized world. I don't know.
That's cool. Yeah, the depth that they have in there. That's neat. So you talked about bosses a little bit. What were some of your favorite boss fights, and who were some of your most difficult boss fights?
Plasudasax probably fits both, but
Okay.
he is I'm gonna describe him to you, Brett, and it's not gonna do him justice at all
Okay.
because I want to say he's a 5 or 4 headed dragon, but this is like 10,000 years after he's been dead.
Okay.
You actually have to rewind time. He exists in a pocket outside of time. You
Okay.
have to rewind time to get it so the pocket dimension is like exactly right before he dies.
Okay.
And he's a giant zombie dragon. Like his skin is like falling apart. You see his skeleton and stuff. He's a giant like 4 headed zombie dragon, and like one or two of the heads has fallen off. They've been decapitated, so he's got like decapitated heads, and he's got skeleton stuff everywhere. He's the coolest person ever. But yeah, you fight him in this like outside of time arena. And it's very cool. It's a big arena. It's very hard to do because he's a massive dragon, so he can just like take up and fly off into the air, or shoot King Ghidorah beams at you,
Okay.
like with the I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, so he's really cool. And the toughest boss fight, he was the coolest. The toughest boss fight is obviously Melania. She's just ridiculous. I have yet to beat her without summoning in help.
Okay.
I've never just, I'm not like even though I've played Elden Ring for this long, because I've never like been super into the other Souls games. I'm not like playing for bragging rights or anything. I'm not like,
sure.
I'm like super good at this game. I'm not like trying to say that I'm good at the game.
Sure.
I just think it's fun.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that's why Elden Ring is good, because it's easier for people like me who I'm like kind of into it, but I'm not going to be great at it,
Mm-hmm.
Makes it so we can succeed. So yeah, she's so ridiculous that yeah, I've yet to beat her without someone online coming. And I don't know how much you know about the community. I did get Let Me Solo Her to help me one time.
Okay.
You don't know him?
No, is that like a famous user or something like that?
This guy, since the first week of Elden Ring, all he's done is sit out. You have to go to the boss chambers locations and set up your summon sign to say that you can summon me like in this boss location. So he has sat outside of Melania's boss area every day since the game came out for like it's the first week of the game, and just sits there and helps people fight Melania.
Wow. Okay.
And that's why his name is Let Me Solo Her, because then he wants you to just sit in the corner of the boss room, and then he just fights her by himself in his underwear with a pot on his head.
Oh, that guy! I didn't really realize he had a name. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So he can't even get hit that many times because he has no armor on,
Right.
and yet he still does it. So I got that guy one time, and it was awesome.
All right. Wow. That's dedication.
Might be the biggest moment of my gaming career was when I saw Let Me Solo Her.
This is a moment. Get the camera.
Yeah. Have you seen that boss fight at all?
No, I think I've seen artwork of her, but no, I haven't watched the fight.
Holy crap. She does an attack called a waterfall dance.
Okay.
Jumps up in the air, and then it's like just a series of katana swipes that just don't stop for like 15 seconds straight.
Fun.
And she like follows you, like locks in. It's like a lunging attack, so you just can't, you just die. Like that's what happens. And she does that attack constantly.
Okay.
And usually by now in the community, people have figured out ways to like tech around attacks and stuff. You're like, oh, if you dodge inside to her left leg, there's nothing you can do with waterfall attack. Like some people, you can run away basically is what you can do.
Sure.
But oh, excuse me.
You're good.
I think that's probably why Elden Ring is my favorite game of all time, though.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you beat Melania, however you say her name, when you beat her, you can actually take her Greater Rune and bring it to the Two Fingers Oracle in the Round Table Hold,
Okay.
and you can get her sword.
Hmm.
You get Melania's sword. It's a giant katana, and you also the weapon art is waterfall dance. You can
Mm.
do the OP cheesy attack to enemies in the game,
Okay.
and so that's what made it my favorite game of all time. Is because on my first playthrough, I did a samurai build, which was just like the starting class,
Mm-hmm.
and I played through blind. I didn't look anything up, so I was like, I'm just gonna stick to the samurai class. Like, I'm just gonna keep leveling up these stats and just use the katana because
Mm-hmm.
I'm too scared I'm gonna fuck something. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't
Sure.
want to fuck something up. So I just kept doing that. And the game felt like it was designed for me specifically, playing as a samurai with a katana. Like about halfway through the game, there's a lot of different katanas that you can find and unlock, but about halfway through the game also, I got the Nagakiba, which is just like a super long katana. It's like really big. You two-hand it usually. And so I used that for the rest of the game. I like leveled up when I got that sword. And then when I beat the game, I got Melania's katana. And it was like the game was like rewarding me. It's like, hey, you beat it. Now you have the best katana in the game.
Sure.
So it really felt like it was. And there's also a samurai NPC that shows up halfway through and also at the end of the game and kind of helped with my ending and stuff. So it felt like it was designed for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I played it a second time. And I really wanted to be a dragon enchanter, like a dragon incantation user. I don't know if you've seen that, but they can summon giant dragon heads above them to like breathe fire and stuff.
Oh.
It was super cool.
Okay.
And I had found some dragon armor at one point, so I was like, I bet you I can make a dragon build because there's dragon temples. So I did that. I made a dragon build. I only use dragon armor. I use the dragon heart like incantation thing that you use for faith. I only use dragon weapons that had like dragon scales in it. And the game felt like it was designed specifically for playing a dragon playthrough. There's dragon altars and stuff, and I'm like, that's when I realized, like, it clicked. I was like, that's awesome that you can play through in a completely different way, and there's all these things that are specifically only for your character and your playthrough.
Sure.
That if you're playing a different class, you wouldn't experience at all. You wouldn't have to go to the dragon temples and get the hearts. You wouldn't have to kill all the dragons on the map to get all the powers like you do with the dragon playthrough. Like I think I only killed like 1 or 2 dragons on my first playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, making it feel like it was a completely tailor-made different game every time you play it, depending, like if you play a magic player, like all of a sudden there's all these different there's a school of magic that like an actual physical Hogwarts-esque school that you go to and stuff, and you get a bunch of different spells and stuff in there. It's like, yeah, this feels like it was designed for a magic user playthrough, and
Sure.
it's like, it's just really cool the way they do that, and they put all these little things in there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So how many characters have you played through start to finish for Elden Ring?
Got start to finish, I think just 7.
Just 7. Okay.
I've made 11. Well, because I've made 11 characters, but
Okay.
I haven't gotten through. Some of them I have certain, like I've made characters from books. I'm like, you're just gonna use movesets that would align with your book character. Or some characters, I'm doing like a challenge. Like my current run right now is no summons. I'm using not only no people summons like I did for Melania. I'm also doing no summons at all. Like I can't summon like the little dogs that help you and stuff like that.
Okay.
Which is challenging, but surprisingly, I've already killed Renalia, and the guy with the 6 arms,
Mm-hmm.
Gorgic or whatever, the Grafted. So I've killed 3 of the Great Rune Bears, basically, which means I can go into the city now. I can go into the Golden City.
Okay.
So basically, I've got about half the game left, so I could finish it.
Nice.
But it's been very hard. It's been very difficult so
For
far.
sure.
So definitely taking a break on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah. Anyway, sorry. Characters like that, where I have a challenge in mind, sometimes I don't actually finish the game with them.
That's fair.
Or they added a multiplayer's arena mode, which is super sick.
Okay.
There's all these coliseums throughout the world that you can go to and fight with different rules, and the players that you fight though are scaled to your level.
Okay, that's good.
So I have like a character that I made that was like a poison samurai character, but she's only level 25 because I just wanted to use her to duel other players. Because if I made her stronger than 25, like I'm probably gonna lose. I'll be honest with you. So I just fight other level 25s with her, and she's good. So I'm never gonna beat the game with her because I want to keep her for multiplayer.
And then did they announce?
There is New Game Plus.
Okay, there's New Game Plus. Did they put DLC into this as well, or no?
Not yet. They've had that free multiplayer update, and then they announced over a year ago at this point. I think it's like 14 months ago. It's called the Shadow of the Erd Tree.
Okay.
And they show, I mean, I'm just real quick just going through it. The Great Rune or whatever. There's like 7 kids, and you play through and fight, and you kill 6 of them.
Okay.
So this new DLC is the final one, the final great shard bearer that you did not face, Mikola. Melania's younger brother or sister, I don't really know. But yeah, she's called Melania the Blade of Mikola, actually, because she would like do his fighting for him.
Okay.
And he is a character known for dreaming, I think, like sleeping in dream worlds and stuff. So there's a lot of speculation if this is going to take place like in the dream world, or if there's going to be time manipulation, like with Plasudasax in the Great Fair Missoula. So we don't know, but because it's taking so long, everyone pretty much universally agrees that they're not just going to do a legacy dungeon style thing. They're going to do a whole open world area. It's going to be like I don't know, like Cyberpunk's
the
Phantom Liberty. With the Dogtown, or The Witcher 3 with the Blood and Wine, like those types of expansions. Wow. That's what it sounds like.
Okay. Cool.
So I'm very excited.
So whenever FromSoft works on their next title, obviously Armors of Rubicon just came out this past year, and like you said, this DLC is still being worked on. Would you like for them to continue what they did in Elden Ring, or go back to more of the formulaic with the past titles, the more streamlined one path?
I would honestly love to see a trilogy of Elden Ring games like they did a trilogy of Dark Souls. I don't think that they would do that. Honestly, I don't know if they're going to ever make a game like this again. I think this might be a one-off for them.
Okay.
We'll have to see. I mean, it was so successful. It won Game of the Year and everything. We got so many sales and stuff. So they may end up making more games in this style. But I can't remember the name of the guy. He's like the genius behind Elden Ring and From Software.
Was it Miyazaki?
Is Miyazaki, that's it. He does not strike me. He's not a man that likes to repeat himself.
Okay.
Like, the reason Dark Souls 2 is so weird compared to the other ones is because he made Dark Souls 1. It became incredibly successful. Like, Dark Souls 1 sold very well. And he didn't want to make Dark Souls 2. He went off with a separate team, and he made Bloodborne. While the rest of From Software made Dark Souls 2.
Gotcha.
And then Dark Souls 2 came out, was also successful, and he was like, okay, I'll come back and work on Dark Souls 3. But yeah, even then, even when he was working on Dark Souls 3, he was working on Sekiro. He was working on all those other things. So I feel like he probably won't go back to the Elden Ring universe, sadly.
Do you think they'll ever, like, obviously Armored Core was part of a series. Do you think they'll ever mix it up where it's not melee combat and do something more gun-related, or, I don't know, vary it up in some different way with still keeping that core gameplay of the difficulty?
I don't know. I mean, games like Remnant and Remnant 2 show that you can do combat like that. But I feel like they're just so good at what they're doing with the swords and stuff. Like they've meted it out, because I don't know. I feel like you can only shoot a gun so many different ways. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You shoot a gun, or you can like crouch and shoot it. But every single weapon in Elden Ring has like 5 or 6 corresponding specific moves. Like no 2 weapons work the same. So and it's 6 different moves each. So I feel like that level of complexity could only come from like a blade system with like magic on top of that and range. Gotcha. I could be wrong. I would love to be proven wrong, but
yeah, just curious, because they seem to do like, not medieval, that sounds like a wrong definition.
It's like medieval fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like they keep doing it, which, I mean, obviously, props to them. Each one looks cool, and their villain design and everything, world design looks great. I'm just curious if they would try a different path. Like you said, with Miyazaki wanted to do different things, it seems. But if it's if it's not broke, don't fix it type deal as well. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Especially for Elden Ring. Like,
yeah.
I like the world a lot in it too, which is sad because they probably won't come back to it. But I just don't find, even though I really did like the gameplay in Dark Souls 3, like I don't find myself connecting to it in the same way as the Elden Ring universe.
Sure. Nice. Very cool. Well, everybody, this has been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma911, and today I was joined once again by TJ at Turn-Based TJ. TJ, thank you so much for the time today, man. It was a great episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Learned a lot about Elden Ring, learned a little bit more about Baldur's Gate, what I got coming in store for me. So yeah, definitely appreciate the time. Everybody, if you want to catch the podcast live, you can always go over to twitch.tv/Enigma911. You can drop a follow over there. You get notified when we go live, so you can join in on the fun and conversation. But if you can't catch it live, that is A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services. The very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, that subscriber button, that follow button, whatever you see on your screen right now, if you guys could hit that, helps the channel grow immensely. You get notified when new stuff comes out. So please do that. Helps us grow, helps the channel grow, all that fun stuff. Helps you out. We would love and appreciate you for it. TJ, thanks for hanging out today, man, for this episode. I do really appreciate you hanging on, especially for episode 200. Thanks, man.
Yeah, congrats on the 200 episodes.
Thank you. Of course, Artemis makes his episode appearance. There you go. Viewers, listeners, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for giving us a watch, giving a listen, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.